Abortion has been in the news quite a bit lately, with numerous U.S. states enacting fetal heartbeat laws and with our Canadian Prime Minister voicing his strong support for abortion in this country. Joining me now at the desk is Kimberlee Vroom with Lethbridge and District Pro-Life to discuss a lot of pro-life issues. Welcome to Bridge City News, Kimberlee.
Thank you.
Now, before we get into it, let's talk about your big fundraiser coming up on Saturday, Henderson Lake. Tell me more about it.
Oh yeah, so we're having a big fundraiser on June 1st. Our theme this year is unique from day one, celebrating life from conception all the way till natural death. All of our supporters come out, they fundraise from their friends and their family. They come out, we give them t-shirt, hot dogs, chips, the whole 9 yards. The kids have fun with games. We ask that they walk around the Henderson Lake 1 or 2 times, It's a real fun event.
It's a great park too.
It is a wonderful park. Usually the weather's beautiful, we have a pretty good turnout, and we'd love to have a lot of people there just to celebrate life and, coming together as a pro-life community in Lethbridge.
Why do you think it is that the pro-life message has always been met with so much controversy?
Abortion is so polarizing because when people love abortion, they don't realize what it actually is. And so when you show them the truth of it, they don't want to see it. They try to hide from it. But when you understand what abortion is and how it actually hurts women and kills children every day, then you can't just stand by and do nothing. So that's why I think we have such very active participants on both sides of the debate, because some people are so strongly for it because they don't realize what they're defending, and the people that are against it realize what they're doing, and they realize that they can't sit around and not have a voice for the unborn.
People who are pro-choice, Kimberlee, they often say, this is my life, my body, my choice, right? But then pro-lifers say, no, there's more than just your body involved. There's another person's body growing inside of you. That's the problem. That's the issue.
Yep.
So what kind of a conversation? Tell me about some of those conversations you have with pro-choice people. Alrighty.
So when you're talking to someone who's pro-choice, the first thing you need to do is establish common ground. So basically you say, you know what, yeah, I agree with you. Women should have a choice over what they can do with their bodies. However, I don't believe that we can justify the killing of another human being so that they can have control over their bodies. Then they'll usually respond with something like, well, they can't survive outside of the womb on their own. Well, that doesn't mean that they're any less human or should be granted any less rights than anybody else. Pro-lifers, we're seen as anti-choice and anti-women, but what we're really against is the one choice, is just abortion. We're against that choice because it actively kills another human being. There's so many choices for women to do if they want to go to school, if they want to parent, they can give their child up for adoption. There's so many ways that we can help them and encourage them to be healthy. We just don't think abortion is a morally justifiable option.
Some pro-choice people I've spoken with in the past, Kimberlee, they say, we're very much pro-life except when somebody's raped, attacked, raped, brutalized, and then they don't want that seed growing in another individual from a rapist. They can't justify that. They're like, there's no way I want that seed growing in my wife, my daughter, whatever. So sometimes people say, I can understand where you're coming from, but at the same time, it's not that baby's fault.
No, it's not. And we firmly believe that rape is an awful, awful thing, and rapists should be punished to the full extent of the law. And I personally don't believe that they're punished enough in the current climate of our modern society. Unfortunately, that's the society we live in. But with unborn children, they're a victim of the rape as well because they didn't ask to be created. Mom is just as much a victim, but when she turns her desperation onto her child and goes in through with an abortion, that just creates 2 victims, a dead child and a mother who's hurting from both the rape and the abortion. And we'd love to give support and give resources to women who have gone through rape. And there's actually there's a big contingency of people who have gotten pregnant from rape or conceived out of rape. And they're fighting for their lives as well, and for their voice, because having an abortion doesn't take away that guilt, the feeling of worthlessness that someone that violates you does, right? It often makes it bigger and makes you feel worse. And so abortion doesn't cure those feelings, and neither does it. It doesn't help women in those situations either.
There was some controversy surrounding some of the bus bench ads involving some of the pro-life ads that we've seen with Lethbridge and District Pro-Life. Some people said they were too graphic. And I think City Hall received something like 200 or 300 calls, so they were yanked, they were pulled off. And now it's in front of the courts.
Yeah, so we have a hearing in October. As far as what the ads were exactly, it was a picture of an unborn child in the womb. Nothing graphic about it, something you see on a 3D ultrasound or, a very high-tech camera. But in City Hall, they received a few hundred supporters from people who said those were too graphic, but they also received over several thousands of pro-life signatures the other way, saying that this is a breach of our freedom of expression and that this is unacceptable. And so, yeah, we have a hearing in October with the courts, and our lawyer's been great. She's been wonderful helping us with this case.
We'll have to keep an eye on that, definitely. What are your thoughts on what's happening in the United States right now? Alabama's saying, they're basically saying legislation is coming out, no abortions are allowed. Doctors can be criminally charged for performing abortions. But then in a state like New York, you can basically bring a baby to term and then kill it. I mean, in the same country, such diametrically opposed positions, pro-life and pro-choice. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I think that's incredible. That's crazy. But in any country, you're going to find people who are diametrically opposed to abortion, because here in Canada, we have people who would love to see rid abortion of Canada, like get it out of here, fully. But we also have people who like the fact that it's legal through all 9 months. And, in Alabama, it's really great to see that they're willing to stand for life and have those values in place. Banning abortions past 6 weeks when the heartbeat can be detected. And it's important to note that in Alabama that the women who are getting illegal abortions aren't the ones that are being charged for this. It's the abortionist. It's the person committing the crime. It is considered a felony. It'll be considered a felony in Alabama if an abortionist does an abortion after 6 weeks.
So pro-choice people are, I guess, saying, Kimberlee, well, people are still going to want to have abortions regardless of what the law dictates. So where are these people going to go?
I mean, they'll have to travel out of state, or they will go through with their pregnancy and give the baby up for adoption, which is, the more desirable choice. It's the choice where two people, we save the life of one, and we empower the life of the other.
Our Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has gone on record saying he's very much pro-choice, right? Abortion, it's not going to be an issue that's going to be brought up again. The laws in our country. The same thing with Andrew Scheer, the Tory leader, federal Tory leader. He said the same thing. I'm not going to reopen that debate. What are your thoughts on that? How do you feel about that?
I think it's crazy. Abortion was decriminalized 50 years ago, and the law was struck down almost 30 years ago. And I'm sitting here as a 20-year-old, and you're going to tell me that the abortion debate shouldn't be reopened? It's been 50 years. I think it's time we have a talk about it. It's been 50 years of decriminalized and 30 years of just free-for-all, like legal through all 9 months of pregnancy. We're the only developed country in the world that has laws that lacks, actually no laws, in fact, on abortion.
Some argue that abortion is justified because of so little support being available for young, expectant mothers. How do you respond to that?
I would say that, well, as far as what pro-lifers are doing, we're doing as much as we can. We just started a new house called Elsie's House for young and expectant mothers who are in desperate situations, where they can come while they're expecting, be supported through discounted housing, parenting classes, resources, and counseling. They can come live for discounted prices, and they can stay there all the way until their child is 2. We're doing the work. We're willing to help these women who are in desperate situations, who don't think they have it any way out. We're often asked, well, why don't you support these things? Why don't you support people who foster? Why don't you adopt children? Well, the truth of it is we are doing that. That's what pro-lifers are doing. I can, if you come to the Hike for Life on Saturday, you probably see multiple foster children there, because they're the people that are willing to sacrifice for them.
What message do you have for the potential fathers? We always hear about the mom and the baby, but there are 2 parties involved, well, 3 parties if you involve the baby. What do you say to the males, the potential fathers?
I would say it's also your responsibility. Abortion makes it so easy for men to, the woman is pregnant, they can just leave, and the woman has to have to bear the burden of
big responsibility, financial responsibility too.
That too, and we don't. Child support is a very flawed system. A lot of men don't end up paying for it, and if you can't prove the paternity of the father, then they get off scot-free. And I would also encourage men, if your partner is considering abortion, say something. like you don't, it's really sad that in Canada you don't have any, you can't say you don't have rights over the child, only the woman does. But it is important that you use your voice and you speak to her and you encourage her to put that child up for adoption or to keep the child. You know, it's, you have a say too. Abortion isn't just a women's issue.
Let's talk about Unplanned now, the story about Abby Johnson, the former director of Planned Parenthood, who actually apparently went into her abortion clinic, saw an abortion being performed, the baby being ripped out of the mother's womb, and then instantly changed her mind, became pro-life. She left as the director, and now this movie Unplanned is not being seen, or it's not being picked up by Landmark, Cineplex, the major theater distributors here in Canada. So, I mean, I guess some churches can actually ask to be brought in.
Well, we're hoping to purchase the DVD once it comes to DVD, and then we will probably get in touch with Movie Mill to see if we can show some showings there. Otherwise, we'll show it at churches and any other place that would be willing to show it. We've had so much support for it on these petitions online that I don't think we could, even if it was banned by distributors, we'd have to show it at some point in Canada.
Do you think it's Hollywood leans more to the left? That's why they're very much pro-choice?
I'm not really sure why in
A form
Canada.
of censorship, perhaps?
Possibly. I know that in the States it's very much considered a Christian film or one that's not valid. But from all the reviews that I've seen, I personally haven't seen it. It's still a good movie despite the message it sends. But you know, the message that it sends is a very heartbreaking but very positive one, showing how abortion really changes people.
The movie received an R rating, not because of foul language, not because of anything else, but the violence of actually ripping the baby out of the mother's womb, how graphic that was. That's why it received an R rating.
Well, I totally agree with that. I believe that, you know, abortion is rated R. It shouldn't be allowed. It's terrible. It's egregious. It's violent.
Do you think more expectant mothers should maybe go actually see an abortion being performed if they're considering an abortion that would maybe scare them straight or have them change their minds?
I am more for showing them, you know, before they have the abortion, have to take a look at the ultrasound before they're given the choice to abort. Because often when they go to abortion clinics, they do an ultrasound to see how big the baby is, and the screen is turned away from the mom, and they just, you know, that's all they see. They see the back of a screen and a technician holding the ultrasound over their belly. They might not even hear the heartbeat.
At what point do we hear the heartbeat? 6 weeks?
Well, the heart starts beating at 3 weeks.
3 weeks. Okay.
It can probably be detected around 6 weeks, which is why the abortion ban in Alabama is around 6 weeks. But, you know, that doesn't, just because the heart starts beating around 3 weeks, at conception, when the egg and the sperm come together and there's a brand new set of DNA, 46 chromosomes, we know that's when life begins. You know, biologically speaking, that's when life begins, and that's when life should be protected.
Do you ever make your way to schools or other community groups and talk to young people about why you're so passionate about being pro-life?
Well, considering I am still a youth,
Yeah.
I consider myself
20
still
years young, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's pretty.
So you're not too far
yeah.
removed from being in
No.
high school yourself, right?
You know, I was on my Lethbridge my Students for Life club in high school. You know, we tried to support single mothers with donations from our club. You know, we held a life day. We had shirts and T-shirts, and we encouraged all of the students to raise money, and we had a wonderful day. As far as talking to youths, you know, I've done activism on the streets of Lethbridge. I went to Florida for a week, and we did activism on the campuses there, just because there's less regulation and we have an opportunity to show.
What was that like? Tell me about that experience.
With CCBR, we go down to Florida, Canadian Center for Bioethical Reform. We go down to Florida for a week. It's for college students and high school students. It's, you know, in February, so you get a nice warm break. We're going to Florida. You go down to campuses, and we have the signs up around the campuses, and we learned apologetics. And we talk to students there about abortion, and you know, that's really important down there because we see the people that, you know, they're not thinking about it, but once they do have an unplanned pregnancy, you know, we've already caught them before that. We've already given them the information. We've already shown them what abortion really is, and so they can't say they didn't know. You know, it's so important to get people young, especially high school students and college students, to let them know what abortion really is.
Do you think a lot of people are maybe coming at it from the wrong mindset? I know with the recent March for Life that took place in Ottawa, over 100,000 people, the anti-pro-lifers called it a pro-choice protest. It wasn't really a protest, it was a rally for pro-life, right?
Yeah.
So maybe it's just the whole mindset is wrong. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, as much as it's a rally, it's still a protest. We go to Ottawa, we're on Parliament Hill. You know, there's no way they can ignore us. And yet somehow the media still find a way to show that the pro-choice and the pro-life groups are the same size, when clearly there's 100,000 pro-lifers and, you know, a few thousand pro-choicers, if even that. But it's a rally. It's also a celebration of life, you know. I've been to the March for Life in Ottawa. It's one of the most uplifting times, the most encouraging to go to. But it's also important that if you go to a March for Life to say in Edmonton or Ottawa or Toronto, that you go there for your encouragement, and then you go home and do work. And you work in your community to end abortion there. And you put the time and effort into helping the unborn.
Kimberlee, one last thought. We've got a viewer right now who may be pregnant, is watching our program, and is considering getting abortion. What message do you have for that person?
I would say you're not alone. You know, there's so many resources we have here in Lethbridge. We have the Crisis Pregnancy Care Center. We have Elsie's House. Abortion is a decision that you'll live with forever, and it's not one you can reverse. Whereas, you know, if you have your child, you have so much time. You can decide if you want to put them up for adoption. You know, you have the whole pregnancy to think about that. And then you can decide if you want to parent or you want to adopt. You know, it's a life-giving option and not a death-giving one. And I would encourage them to, you know, look at their options and also consider what abortion really is.
Kimberlee Vroom with Lethbridge and District Pro-Life, thanks so much for joining me in studio today.
Thank you so much.
On behalf of all of us here at BCN, I'm Hal Roberts. God bless and have a great night.